While Israel and Hamas wage war in the Middle East, thousands of miles away, a war of words and rhetoric is taking place on American college campuses. Tuesday night, a student group projected these images right here on a building at George Washington University. One says, "Glory to our martyrs," a refrain that started showing up right after the October 7th attacks by Hamas. Others contend this is really about innocent Gazans. The university weighed in, saying it intervened, removed the projections, and clarified the demonstration was unauthorized. It added the statements do not reflect the views of the school and says it is reviewing that incident now. Many who advocate to free Palestine, as they call it, they say they don't support Hamas, but they do back innocent Palestinians. But new data suggests college-age Americans, 18 to 24 years old, are almost split between support for Israel and Hamas. And keep in mind, the Harvard CAPS Harris poll does not ask about support for Israel versus Gaza. It's talking about Israel versus Hamas. And you see here, 48% of those people said they support the terror group Hamas. Our next guest says she is not surprised. She co-authored an op-ed in the New York Post that made some waves and says she, quote, witnessed firsthand the ideological takeover of American universities that pushes people to stand against Israel at times. Jill Jacobson is with us, law student at Boston College and co-author of that piece there. Jill, almost dead even, young people supporting Israel or Hamas. And again, I just want to underscore here, it's not Palestinians, Gazans, it's Hamas. It's the group right now holding 200 hostages, killed old women and babies in their beds. Why would so many students support Hamas?
Thank you for having me. I think at the root of this is an inability for students to be nuanced now. Universities used to be a place where you would contest ideas and really explore the contours of your own morality so that you could make critical decisions free from influence from others. Now we're seeing the opposite, where students are taught very binary thinking, oppressed and oppressor, and they really lack the ability to be nuanced and have moral courage to stand up against sentiments like these.
Well, we showed at George Washington University, the students projecting that message, glory to our martyrs, the martyrs being Hamas terrorists. I mean, these things started popping up after October 7th. It was widely understood to be them. I mean, some of the people now contend, no, we're talking about, innocent civilians. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think these statements are extremely anti-Semitic. They're really scary. They're offensive to a lot of people. But I think the underlying motivation for a lot of them, on a wide scale at least, is groupthink. You'll notice that the students making these statements misapply academic theory. They invocate history incorrectly. I think it really reflects an intellectual laziness and a social malleability that we should be concerned about more so than widespread, concrete, informed support for a terrorist group.
I know, you're making your viewpoint very clear here, which I think, in these sort of instances, it's helpful just to know where people are coming from, the way they see the world. The one thing that I have found interesting is a lot of the progressive groups, that may fall into this camp of seeing oppressor versus oppressed, that, a lot of people within those groups, Hamas tortures and kills those people, and so you kind of just trying to get to the mindset of those, of how this is all understood. And one thing I wondered about was a common chant at these rallies, which I see show up on X all the time as I'm scrolling through my feed, is from the river to the sea, and then you say Palestine will be free. Many Jewish writers say on there, that means the eradication of Israel, everybody there in the center, the Jewish people, they would be gone. Do students understand that fractal?
I don't think so. And I think to your first point, there is a great irony in the fact that Hamas has more support in the Ivy League than they do in much of Palestine. But I think this is a perfect example of how powerful these ideologies are and how out of control the homogeneity of viewpoint really has gotten. Rather than viewing the current conflict between Israel and Palestine as two groups who both claim ancestral ties to a piece of land, They view Israel as a colonizer that must be dealt with. And that's where the conversation begins and ends.
Jill, the Palestinian cause has always enjoyed, I'd guess, above average support on college campuses. I remember on my college campus, I mean, there would be a wall, a border built in the middle of campus, and, there were always petitions and people with bullhorns, and people felt very, very strongly about this. It wasn't just the Amnesty International, core group. It was that people felt very strongly about this. In a way, is this just more heightened, that maybe it's not so noteworthy, that it's more of the same, or is this different in some way?
I think it's categorically different. Before there was, like I said, nuanced political debates about the land itself, about the political situation. This is almost a referendum on whether terrorist attacks against people in general, but also against Americans, is okay in pursuit of some larger decolonization project. And I think in that sense, it's very different and all the more concerning.
One more analogy I'd like you to draw out for me, or say if it doesn't work, is I read, I think he's a professor at Columbia, I believe, who spoke out about this, a Jewish professor. And I think he said, on college campuses, yes, we're supposed to have a diversity of opinions. You're supposed to actually probably say things in college that you wouldn't, even flirt with the rest of your life. But he said, as far as administrators, if after 9/11 you would have allowed people endorsing the attackers, that just would not have been allowed. But for some reason, this is in the permissible zone. Do you think that analogy tracks, or again, is it somehow different?
I think there's a difference between students and even professors playing with ideas and debating and contesting each other's thoughts, and there being a dominant narrative that is supported by students, professors, and administration alike, particularly one that's so violent.
Jill Jacobson, law student at Boston College. I know you've made your viewpoint known, and a lot of people are doing that these days. I appreciate you coming on and helping us just get our arms around this a bit. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up, a new House Speaker now holds the gavel tonight. Who's Mike Johnson? And how does he compare to the other nominees who failed to secure that speakership? Much better known, much less successful. Plus, it's been a turbulent year of horse racing deaths, even with safety precautions in place. There's mounds of scrutiny on this sport. Scripps News investigation into what is going on at America's racetracks.